Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for his question. I will say it's not just that we're providing this tax cut, which I do believe is going to put more immediate funds into the pockets of all Canadians, 22 million Canadians. But I'd also say to you, Mr. Speaker, that over the last 10 years, we have introduced the Canada Child Benefit, national child care, the dental care plan. We've introduced a whole series of measures that are supporting our families, that are helping them to live affordable lives and to
We will now move on to statements by members. Déclaration de député, the honourable member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Today is World AIDS Day, a day to remember the 42 million people who've died, our neighbors, friends, and relatives. AIDS is an ongoing pandemic. It used to be a death sentence, but with the discovery of antiretrovirals, it's really changed everything, turning AIDS when treated into a chronic disease. Making these drugs affordable to millions of people worldwide has been one of the greatest scientific and humanitarian triumphs of all time. Yet today our progress faces a grave threat as major donors slash international assistance and HIV funding. The impact has been devastating. For example, in South Africa, treatment initiation has fallen 30%. These funding cuts could create a whole new wave of disease and tens of thousands of more deaths. This is why our government's recent $1 billion pledge to the Global Fund is so welcome. As many wealthy nations backtrack on their commitments, we need to unite globally to ensure decades of progress in fighting this terrible disease do not unravel. Thank you.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrek. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are facing a severe increase in the price of food, and 2 million Canadians use food banks every month. But happily, Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrek, hundreds of people, volunteers, are working hard to help the most vulnerable among us. In Loretteville, at the Maison de la Famille Saint-Ambrose, and at L'Accueil Saint-Ambrose, they're preparing to distribute Christmas hampers. In l'Ancienne Lorette, the Saint-Vincent-de-Paul and Rayon de Soleil are making sure that people have food on their tables, just like Solidarité Famille in Seoul. In Val-Bélair, the Rotarians are working on the Frigo Partage Val-Boncoeur. The Indigenous Friendship Centre of Quebec and others are working in Wendake to distribute hampers across the full territory of the nation. And every day, Amélie and Frédéric are helping families in Neufchâtel and Le Bourgneuf. And of course, families can count on the Chevalier, the Optimist, Rotary, and the Lions. Mr. Speaker, with Christmas coming up, Canadians' generosity is clear, and we see it in all its beauty and all its splendor.
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it's with a heavy heart that I share with you today the loss of one of my oldest friends, Belinda Crodden. On November 17th, her life was taken through an unimaginable act of violence by a person that she stepped in to help when our justice system had failed them. Belinda has an open, generous heart, and her compassion was her strength. Her murder is not only a personal heartbreak for me, but a reflection on the failures of our justice system. When people who pose a clear risk to society are not kept behind bars or provided the mental health and rehabilitation tools they need, this is the consequence. Belinda's death is a painful reminder that we must do better. I will always remember her beautiful soul and her light-up-the-room, bold, dynamic personality. Belinda, I love you. May you rest in peace. And may your memory tell us and inspire us to fight for a safe and more just world. Thank you.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I pay tribute to Jean-Guy Lévesque, who recently announced his retirement after a decade of involvement in municipal politics. A well-known figure in Restigouche, he's dedicated his life to public service, first in the school system as a teacher, school principal, and district superintendent. A tireless volunteer, he's distinguished himself in many community and sports organizations. Recently, he headed the bid committee that secured the 2029 World Acadian Congress for the Baie des Chaleurs region. After serving as head of the Val d'Amour DSL, he was elected councillor in Atollville in 2015, then mayor. In 2023, he became the first mayor of the Campbellton Regional Community, following the reform of local governance in New Brunswick. Recognized for his collaborative spirit, his ethics, and his unifying sense of humor, Jean-Guy leaves a lasting impression. Thank you for your years of contribution to public life. And know that you will leave big shoes in Restigouche to fill.
Mr. Speaker, let's play today in history. It's been 133 days since the Prime Minister said he'd have a trade deal with Donald Trump's USA. It was the PM's main campaign promise, but he broke it. It's now December, no deal in sight. Tariffs are higher. Softwood lumber tariffs exceed 45%. Steel, 25%. And 25% on some Canadian autos. It's now almost impossible to sell many crucial products to the U.S. Jobs are being lost. So the Prime Minister travels to the world to get trade deals with other countries, but he fails there too. Tariffs have now increased on Canadian products, shipping to the UK, India, China, and to other nations. The PM's racked up the air miles, but that's money for nothing. We don't need a globetrotter, we need a deal maker. But this Prime Minister is not that guy. Conservatives, though, will always fight for Canadian workers and jobs.
Honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, leading into Remembrance Day, the town of Truro, Nova Scotia, renamed their outdoor athletic facility in honour of the No. 2 Construction Battalion, the only all-black Canadian unit in World War I. The men of the No. 2 showed up ready to enlist, and Canada said, "No thanks, this is a white man's war." When eventually allowed to serve, the No. 2 was the backbone of Canadian efforts, laying track for railroads and milling lumber, every board going to trenches, bridges, observation towers, walkways, and fence posts. These men built the infrastructure that won the war. First-class service from men treated as second-class citizens. The No. 2 Construction Battalion provides us with an example of national service and commitment to community we do well to remember today. Let us serve their memory by being of service to one another. Thank you.
Great job.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, it's always a good day to be of Brookfield when the Liberals are in power. This Prime Minister just committed $500 million to the European Space Agency, created good-paying jobs in none other than Europe. Now, what's so significant about this? Well, this is it. Brookfield actually owns 50% of the Harwell campus where the agency is located. This is the same Brookfield that has avoided $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes through offshore havens. Meanwhile, 2.2 million Canadians line up at food banks each month. The unemployment rate is at 6.9%, and the Prime Minister has tabled the most expensive budget in history since COVID. I'm talking about a $78 billion deficit. But Conservatives have a solution to offer. It's this. 12 companies avoiding taxes, just like Brookfield does, would equal that $78 billion in deficit. So as the 12 days of Christmas approach, would the Prime Minister maybe do us a favor and commit that those 12 companies pay their fair share? And on the first day of Christmas, he can start with Brookfield.
The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, it's with great sadness that I rise today to mark the passing of a great lady of Saint Scholastique and of the history of Quebec, Ms. Rita Léonard Lafond, a woman of conviction and courage. She devoted her entire life to defending her community, which was at the heart of the Mirabel expropriation saga. Through her interventions, she fueled the citizens' struggles that led to the return of 85,000 acres of land. She was the voice in the face of those who had been expropriated. Her tenacity inspired citizens, elected officials, and intellectuals to demand investigations into the Mirabel Airport saga. Mr. Speaker, Rita Léonard Lafond leaves behind an immense legacy, that of a woman who refused to accept injustice and who stood up for her beliefs until the end, despite a federal government that still, to this day, refuses to officially apologize to the expropriated residents of Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, one thing is certain. From above, her integrity will continue to inspire my political commitment. To her loved ones and all those who knew her, I offer my most sincere condolences. Thank you for everything, Ms. Léonard Lafond.
The honourable member for Guelph.
In the time it takes to deliver this statement, another survivor of intimate partner violence will call for help. IPV is happening now, and 106 Ontario municipalities have declared it an epidemic, including Guelph, because it's pervasive and we must end it. During these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, let's acknowledge our shared responsibility, work to change the norms that allow violence to persist, and ensure support for survivors. Thank you to everyone leading Guelph's 16 Days campaign, the CFUW, Guelph Public Library, the Guelph Resource Centre for Gender Diversity and Empowerment, Guelph Wellington Women in Crisis, the International Institute for Critical Studies and Improvisation, Out on the Shelf, Queer Night Out, the Student Wellness Centre at the University of Guelph, Thrive HIV Prevention and Support, and Zonta Guelph. And thank you to all the frontline organizations that support survivors and work towards prevention every single day. Everyone deserves safety, justice, and dignity.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth, Cole Harbour.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, the day that follows Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but asks us to turn our attention to something entirely different. Instead of deals and discounts, Giving Tuesday encourages us to look around our communities and ask, how can I help today? It's a day built on simple gestures that mean a lot, supporting a local charity, checking in on a neighbor, giving a ride, sharing a meal, or stepping up for someone who could use a hand. In Dartmouth, Cole Harbour, and in communities across this great country, we see this spirit every day, especially from nonprofits, charities, and the incredible volunteers who keep them going. Giving Tuesday is a moment to shine a little extra light on their work and join in ourselves. Let's take tomorrow and lift people up in big and small ways. Generosity is contagious, and I hope we all catch it.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, the annual hunger report from Feed Ontario came out today, and it shows just how hard life in Canada has become. For the 9th year in a row, food bank use has increased. More than 1 million Ontarians visited a food bank 8.7 million times in the last year, the highest level ever recorded. These are not conspiracies, these are facts. The more the Liberals spend, the more Canadians go hungry. With this Prime Minister who thinks like a banker, these human struggles are treated as numbers on a balance sheet, not as people. It doesn't matter how hard you work in the Liberals' cost of living crisis, as 23% of food bank users were employed and nearly 1/3 were children. As we head into the cold winter months, food banks are warning they're at a breaking point. Some fear they'll run out of food within 6 months. The Liberals boast about their school food program, yet there is nothing to celebrate when kids grow hungry. This isn't the Hunger Games, but under this so-called new government, the capital feasts while the districts fight to survive. Families can't live on Liberal talking points and paper promises.
The Honourable Member for Markham, Stouffville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We recently lost a great Canadian. I first knew Alan Wells when we worked together at the Regional Municipality of York. A chartered accountant by profession, he served there with dedication for 27 years, including as Commissioner of Social Services and finally as Chief Administrative Officer and my boss. After his retirement, our paths crossed again when I was the Provincial Member of Parliament appointed to serve on the Rouge Park Alliance, of which he was chair. Under his leadership, along with our colleague, the member for Wellington Halton Hills, we were able finally to establish the Rouge National Urban Park. Excellent. A dedicated environmentalist, Blue Jays fan, fishing enthusiast, former Uxbridge Town Councillor, engaged supporter of the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust, and so much more. His contributions will benefit our communities for generations to come. My sincere condolences to Alan's family, friends, and all those who had the privilege of working alongside him. We'll be missing those twinkling eyes, Alan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brant North.
Mr. Speaker, last year alone, 1 million Ontarians needed a food bank, and that totaled 8.7 million visits, according to today's Feed Ontario Hunger Report, which of course is the highest number ever recorded. That's right. Of those visitors, 1 in 3 were children, 1 in 3 were people with disabilities, and 1 in 4 were working Ontarians who still couldn't make enough to make ends meet. Absolutely. Ontario saw twice as many seniors turning to food banks compared to 5 years ago. And 3 in 5 of those visitors were social assistance recipients who simply can't keep up with the cost of living. This isn't normal. This isn't sustainable. And after a decade of liberal spending and broken promises, Canadians can't afford to live. So how many more warning signs will this government ignore while families, workers, seniors are being pushed to the breaking point?
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I wish to highlight the incredible work done by the women and men of the reserves of the Canadian Forces in Trois-Rivières, the members of the NCFM Radisson and the 12th Regiment. Every day demonstrate professionalism and hard work. They define our armed forces. The work that they do to help fellow citizens in floods, for example, during the COVID crisis or around the world, for example, in Operation Reassurance with NATO, demonstrates that they are always ready to stand for Canada. They work hard to protect and represent Canada with honour and merit, and their work must be noted. I thank them for their work. Many of them have a professional life outside of their engagement to the armed forces, on top of the hours in evenings and weekends where they train and work when we need them. We thank them for their engagement, their courage, and we thank you for serving our region and our country. We are proud of you.
The Honourable Member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Speaker, earlier this year, the Prime Minister left his position at Brookfield Asset Management as head of ESG and Impact Fund Investing. He claims to have put all of his assets in a blind trust and disclosed his investments with the Ethics Commissioner. With a conflict of interest screen in place, everyone's supposed to just trust the process after the head of Canada's government left working with a company known for using tax havens in the Caribbean. It also means he must recuse himself from policy discussions involving multinational investment firms. How's that going to happen consistently while running a G7 country? Last week, a senior Brookfield executive admitted to the Ethics Committee that the Prime Minister wouldn't have to worry about managing so many conflicts of interest if he just sold his assets instead of putting them in a blind trust. It was also confirmed that 95% of Brookfield's companies are not included in his screen. By the way, the same Brookfield executive had a meeting with the Prime Minister in October after he already met with the Brookfield CEO back in May. Are Canadians really supposed to believe the blind trust is hidden from them? What more do we need to see that this government is starting yet another round of Liberal corruption?
The Honourable Member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, it's a privilege today to rise to celebrate a great Canadian, a great leader, and a good friend. For 10 years, Julia Hannigsberg has served as CEO at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Don Valley West. Holland Bloorview has become an incredible centre of excellence with a reputation in Canada and abroad. Holland Bloorview recently received the highest possible rating from Accreditation Canada, an exemplary standing recognizing its commitment to excellence in all parts of healthcare delivery. This is just one of the marks of Julia's incredible leadership. She's combined her passion for children with disabilities, her work ethic, and her magnetic personality to make Holland Bloorview a place of innovative treatments, of the highest level of respect for children and their families as it promotes social justice and inclusion for children and youth with disabilities. Holland Bloorview is a family. It continues to do great work. It will be missing Julia. Her legacy will continue.
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians should be able to eat their fill, but the Inequality Observation Authority said that food insecurity has gone up by 82% in Quebec. And there has been a 116% increase in the number of people going to food banks. 1.7 million Quebecers cannot eat their fill. Why is this government forcing this? Why is this Liberal government forcing Quebecers to pay more on their taxes and on inflation? They're feeding bureaucracy instead of feeding their families.
Secretary of State for Youth and Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No parent should have any difficulty in feeding their children. But on this side of the House, we have invested many times in food at school, investing in children, tax cuts for 22 million Canadians. We've We are investing in affordable housing, which is essential to fight poverty. On this side of the House, we are here for families. On the other side, they vote against these measures every single time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
We vote against measures that feed bureaucracy instead of feed families and children, Mr. Speaker. Since the creation of the school food program, the number of children who need to go to food banks has doubled, and 90% of children don't get anything from this program. Even if we believe government figures, every time the government spends more, it becomes more expensive in food inflation on top of taxes on food. So why are they forcing Canadians to pay for bureaucracy rather than food for their family? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, my colleague just talked about the food school program. There's also the childcare benefit. We could talk about automatic benefits. So no bureaucracy when things are automatic. And these programs directly help mothers and fathers who are living food insecurity, which, yes, is too common in our society. Mr. Speaker, why does this leader and this party vote against these measures every single time? Measures that help those who suffer from food insecurity.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, today Algoma announced it's laying off 1,000 steel workers, nearly a third of its workforce in the Sioux. Our thoughts are with them. The Prime Minister looked them in the eye and promised he would protect their jobs, that he would negotiate a win, and I quote, have a deal by July 21st, but it was a bait and switch that is costing people their livelihoods. On top of that, Liberals are hammering the steel mill with a higher industrial carbon tax. Isn't it bad enough that the Prime Minister broke his promise on trade? Why is he going ahead with an industrial carbon tax that will kill even more steel jobs?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, our thoughts are with the workers affected by the unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs imposed by the White House, and we'll continue to work with them as Algoma Steel is going through a difficult situation, to say the least. Mr. Speaker, my team and I have been in contact with Algoma's leadership team. We absolutely have every confidence in the Algoma workers as they're going through this hardship, and we will make sure that we support them as they're developing new products and also accessing new markets. We'll fight for these jobs, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, more promises and more Liberal thoughts will not put food on the table of those out-of-work steelworkers. And they're not alone. The Liberal food cost crisis is growing, according to today's Feed Ontario report, which reveals that food bank use is up 13% in 1 year and 165% since this Prime Minister became the economic advisor to this Liberal government. 8.7 million Ontario visits in 1 year to the Ontario Food Bank, while this Prime Minister hikes carbon taxes on food production. Why is he driving more people into hunger with higher taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, these Conservatives fight against the supports that Canadian families talk about needing. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, they just asked a question about workers that are facing job losses at Algoma Steel. And yet, Mr. Speaker, when they had a chance to vote for expansion of EI, for easier access, longer duration, and more generous benefits, they voted against it, Mr. Speaker. So how do they in any way have the right to stand up and talk about the needs of Canadians when they stand in the way of the supports that those very Canadians need?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The supports that those Canadians want and need is a paycheck, Mr. Speaker.
Exactly.
And they want to be able to afford food. They should be able. In a country with this much farmland and this much wealth, our people should be able to eat. But according to the latest report by Feed Ontario, there's been a 165% increase in food bank use in Ontario alone since this Prime Minister joined this government, yet he wants to go ahead with an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, food processors, and fertilizer that will drive up the cost of food. Why does he get fat on his tax havens while he taxes people?
Mr. Speaker, it's amazing to hear the Leader of the Opposition, because the first thing we did is to make sure that Canadians would have more money in their pocket, Mr. Speaker. We, in fact, reduced taxes for Canadians, 22 million Canadians. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, what's most disturbing for Canadians watching at home? At every step of the way, where we were there for families, where we were there for workers, where we were there for Canadians, they stand in the way, Mr. Speaker. That's the leader who voted against Canadian. On this side of the House, we believe in Canada. We're going to grow this country. We're going to work for families. We're going to protect the worker. We're going to build Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister didn't just break his promises on food, also on housing. He said he'd double home building. But today, a report out from the Missing Middle shows that housing starts are down 34% across 34 Ontario municipalities. Condo starts down 51%. Yet the Prime Minister goes ahead with a Liberal industrial carbon tax on the steel, aluminum, glass, and other inputs required to build homes. It is a tax on homes, all while he hides his millions of dollars in a Bermuda tax haven. Why does he hide his money abroad while taxing homes here in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the Leader of the Opposition and Conservatives actually cared about affordable housing, they would have voted for the budget with $13 billion for affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, they could have voted for $1 billion to fight homelessness and build supportive housing. They could. These Conservatives stalled the first-time homebuyers GST break since June. They have no credibility on affordable housing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the oil agreement between the Liberals and Alberta is a betrayal of the climate. Canada is abandoning the global fight for the environment. That is what the Liberal MP for Laurier-Sainte-Marie confirmed yesterday on Tout le monde en parle, a TV show. I quote, "If we're honest with Canadians, we can no longer achieve our 2030 targets with the recent announcements. It's simply not possible." Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals be as honest as the MP and confirm to Quebecers and Canadians that they have absolutely no intention of meeting their targets? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, the agreement from last week is a major piece of progress for climate change and the environment in Canada. Carbon capturing, new connections for renewable energies throughout Western Canada, nuclear energy, a clear process with clear conditions imposed upon the province of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. This is a major step forward for our environment. The rules are clear, and Alberta is now committed to putting forward its own Environment Action Plan. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. I don't understand how they're trampling their values. Mr. Speaker, the oil agreement from Alberta positions Canada as one of the world's worst environmental polluters for decades to come. It confirms that the Liberals have sold out all of their principles to the same oil companies that are majority shareholders of the Conservative Party. Mr. Speaker, it's not surprising that there are Conservative defectors among the Liberals now because they have the same policies. The real question is, why aren't more Liberals following the example of the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie and resign? Why are they not resigning? The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, the people of British Columbia aren't saying that they need a Bloc Québécois to defend them. They have a clear path forward. We're creating jobs for BC. We're creating opportunities for BC. We are collaborating with First Nations in BC. We are creating renewable energy projects. We are creating electricity networks. Mr. Speaker, British Columbia is a great winner when it comes to the creation of opportunities, jobs and major projects. We were voted in to build Canada strong, and that is what we will do. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers did not vote for climate betrayal. Many of them even voted Liberal out of fear of the Conservatives. Today, the Liberals are betraying them with a Conservative oil deal with Alberta. Quebecers elected 44 Liberal MPs, and they are now being betrayed. Alberta elected 2, and its wildest, oiliest dreams are coming true. So we must ask the question again. What is the point of voting for Quebec MPs who don't even defend Quebec's interests? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, the 44 MPs from Quebec are proud to defend this government, and we will defend the interests of Quebecers because in the last election, Quebecers told us very clearly that they wanted us to protect them with regards to what is happening in the States. Given the current geopolitical climate that is ever-changing, given that the States also made decisions with regards to energy, we must be able to be sovereign with our energy. And that's why we've made this decision to have a strong agreement with Alberta.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Once upon a time in Canada, you could work hard, earn a decent living, and build a better life. In the decade of Liberal policy, that bargain has been blown to pieces. A CTV report this weekend showed that even families earning $200,000 are being driven out of Toronto because they can't afford a basement rental, a home, or anything else. Last year, 35,000 households fled the GTA, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Is move somewhere cheaper the new official government slogan of these Liberals for Canadians who can't afford to stay in their homes?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, it's hypocrisy to hear this from the Conservatives. All of a sudden, they're concerned about affordable housing. Building starts are up across Canada this year versus last year. If you look at year to year, we're moving up. We are investing $13 billion in Build Canada Homes. That's focused on non-market housing and market housing that leverages it. Mr. Speaker, we're getting no support from the Conservatives to scale up affordable housing at an unprecedented rate, and we expect that if they're going to speak out here about it.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Speaker, it is clear we would never support any of the policies that doubled home prices over the last decade. But families aren't just leaving Toronto because it's expensive. They're leaving because it's dangerous. We have needles in parks and crack pipes on the subway, and everybody is just supposed to pretend that all of this is normal. Does the government understand that public safety failures and the cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of everything else are pushing Canadians out of their own communities after 10 years of their Liberal failure?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, it'd be really nice if these Conservatives would read the reports that they quote in the House of Commons. Food Banks Ontario talks about the importance of increasing base rates for social assistance, making sure that people living in poverty have sufficient social supports, Mr. Speaker, investing in income supports for Canadians like we have done through the Canada Disability Support payment, Mr. Speaker. The kinds of recommendations coming out of these reports fly in the face of the individualism that we hear over on the other side, Mr. Speaker. What Canadians know is that sometimes people face hard times, and when they do, they want their country to be there for them.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, whilst the Prime Minister continues to reap profits sheltered from taxation in Bermuda, the middle class here in Canada is now directly affected by this Liberal government's hidden taxes on every grocery. The Quebec Observatory of Inequalities reveals today that nearly 20% of workers suffer from food insecurity. This doubled in 4 years. Even with a steady job, we don't have enough to cope with rising food costs and rent costs. Why is this Prime Minister so proud to continue in the same direction with record deficits and spending, which will only make life even more expensive for Canadians and even more difficult when it comes to getting food? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I would like to highlight that no parents should find it difficult to feed their children. I was in Nova Scotia this weekend. I was lucky enough to meet mothers, women, who work in childcare centres, who take care of our children. They could not stress enough how important our measures have been for them to reduce the cost of childcare, to improve the childcare benefit. They are very happy with these investments made, but the Conservatives keep voting against. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. I'll give one impact of 10 years of Liberal governance: eating less to be able to afford housing. That is the sad choice that Canadians have to make. The Observatory has stated that food insecurity has nearly doubled in 4 years as a result of Liberal inflationary policies. 1 in 3 suffer from it. Severe food insecurity has increased by 63% in 3 years. It means skipping meals, weight loss, and extreme deprivation. And the Prime Minister tells young people and tenants that we'll have to make sacrifices in the future. How many more will have to sacrifice everything to enrich Brookfield and all Canadians? Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue, and what my colleague did not mention was that the first thing we did is reduce income tax for Canadians. 22 million Canadians will now pay less tax. The second measure that the Conservatives voted against, and people need to note this because they voted against measures to build new homes. Affordable housing is the basis of affordability, Mr. Speaker. If they were really serious, if they were so concerned with this, every single one of them would have supported Budget 2025.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Thayendanegea.
At a time when families are under unprecedented financial pressures, Canadians expect their government to put them first. Right. While this Prime Minister travels abroad, meeting with dictators and autocrats, Canadians here at home are struggling to make ends meet. In parts of Ontario, food bank visits have increased by over 250%. This budget was an opportunity for the government to lower the cost of living by eliminating the industrial carbon tax. Instead, they callously increased it. Why?
Yeah, you tell us.
Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives voted against lowering the cost of living when they voted against Budget 2025 because they voted against food in schools for children. They voted against a tax cut for middle-income Canadians.
What else?
They voted against $75 million in apprenticeship training and against a refundable tax credit for personal support workers.
Really? Oh my God.
They also voted against $45 million in funding to address gender-based violence.
Wow.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians and seniors want to know who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it certainly isn't them.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Thayendanegea.
Instead of disingenuous replies to very serious questions, Canadians deserve answers. Let me share the state of Ontario, of food banks in Ontario. 2 in 3 food banks are concerned about sustaining their operations over the next 6 months. 1 in 2 worry they will not have enough food to meet the needs in their community. And directly from the Hunger Report, quote, over the past 5 years, the proportion of first-time food bank visitors have increased. The trend is unsurprising, as overall food bank use has nearly doubled. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister explain why he's driving up grocery costs?
Yeah.
While he's refusing.
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives voted against lowering the cost of living for seniors when they voted against Budget 2025. They voted against old age security. They voted against the guaranteed income supplement. They voted against the New Horizons for Seniors program. They voted against anti-fraud measures that protect seniors from scams. They voted against a tax credit for personal support workers that support seniors who need care. They voted against dental care for over 6 million Canadians that are currently taking advantage of that. Canadians want to know, Mr. Speaker, who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it clearly isn't them.
The Honourable Member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, food bank usage is at a dangerously high level. With over 1 million people using the food bank in Ontario, this past year usage has skyrocketed 165%. Parents take pride in providing for their families. However, the cost of living crisis, 29% of food bank users are children. Wow. When will this Liberal government stop playing games with their Brookfield buddies and stop the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada do important work on the front lines, but they also make important recommendations for government, Mr. Speaker. And what are some of those recommendations? They recommended that Budget 2025 include automatic benefits, the Canada Disability Benefit, which was brought back by our government, National School Food Program, which was made permanent by our government, which the Conservatives recently called garbage. Mr. Speaker, they called on the government to make sure that we were building more affordable housing, and Build Canada Homes does just that. Mr. Speaker, how do the Conservatives sleep at night? Just exploiting the challenges that Canadians are facing for their own political gain without following one suggestion.
L'honorable député de Repentigny.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Canada-Alberta oil agreement is a betrayal of the climate. Canada is abandoning its greenhouse gas reduction targets. It is abandoning all of its environmental policies of the last 10 years. It is abandoning biodiversity by revoking the moratorium on oil tankers. It is abandoning even the protection of Indigenous lands. At this rate, all that will remain of the Environment Minister's mandate is to rubber stamp the Prime Minister's oil agreement. The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, that we could talk about betrayal. Our government is finding a new strategy to meet significant objectives. The Prime Minister, myself, the 44 Liberal Quebec MPs, we all have environmental values. We share them and will continue to better explain things, but we will have strategies to meet our objectives. We have to be able to do so. And in this agreement, there are important tools to do so. And on top of that, Alberta will help us to contribute for the environment. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, once again, the Liberals are all ashamed. They talk about everything except their dirty oil pipelines from the tar sands. They are ashamed to admit that they are no longer fighting climate change by abandoning their greenhouse gas reduction targets. Worse, they are ashamed to admit that they are even going to accelerate climate change with 1.4 million more barrels of dirty oil every single day. Mr. Speaker, how can ministers agree to be the spokespeople for oil policies? They're ashamed to talk about it. They should be cowering under their desks. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, when the Bloc speaks in such ways, in ways that no one really understands. At the end of the day, we have an environmental plan with Alberta to work on renewable energies in Western Canada, concentrate on nuclear energy with very specific conditions for conventional energy. At the same time, we're working with Quebec and all other provinces to continue our progress that will make Canada a leader in renewable energy throughout the world. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Christmas parties, asking people to bring food, to donate to food banks are more present than ever. There has been a striking increase in food bank uses. We've gone from 11% of people going to them to 20% in 2023 under this Liberal government. Even people with jobs can't make ends meet. Why does the Prime Minister insist on keeping the gas tax that makes food more expensive? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our budget helps Canadians to move forward. In the report, it is said that we need to make access to support more easy. That's what we've done with the automatic tax return that will help more than 5 million Canadians obtain what they are owed. They will get support like the childcare benefit that gives close to $8,000 per child. We are here for Canadian families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I invite the colleague to go to food banks and see the people waiting in line. The situation is dire. It doesn't work. 600,000 Quebecers go to food banks every month. It's good that we have organizations and kind-hearted people that help in my community. What we see is a Liberal government that needs to be accountable. How can it choose to reduce taxes on luxury yachts when people find it hard to eat? Are there any other Liberal MPs, like the one from Laurier-Sainte-Marie, that will say, this is a straw that breaks a camel's back? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, just like the MP, I always go to these kind of fundraiser events. I go to food banks in this festive season. We show the same solidarity that Quebecers have always shown and that Canadians have always shown. People at those events ask me why Conservatives vote always vote against food support for children in school? Why do they vote against the child benefit? Why do they vote against tax reductions? Why do they vote against dental insurance and farmer insurance? Why do the Conservatives keep voting against support for vulnerable people?
For Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Food banks across Vancouver Island are overwhelmed, Mr. Speaker. We're seeing a surge in seniors, young families, newcomers, and increasingly full-time workers who cannot afford the price of food. These are people who played by the rules, who worked hard, and who never imagined they would need a food bank just to get through the week. Instead of helping, the Prime Minister is increasing the industrial carbon tax, driving up the cost of transporting and producing food, and making groceries even more expensive. Why is the Prime Minister insisting on hiking the industrial carbon tax when British Columbians can't afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, we are supporting seniors and individuals across Vancouver Island to ensure that they have an affordable life. For example, I met with the Mustard Seed in my riding of Esquimalt Saanich-Sooke, where they are running several food programs to ensure food security. This includes a food program called Flourish for children that ensures that they are fed, and this takes advantage of the National School Food Program. They're also ensuring that they can run their programs with the Canada Summer Jobs Program. These are initiatives that are so key to ensuring that people are fed well on Vancouver Island, initiatives that the Conservatives voted against.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
I asked a question, Mr. Speaker, and I got a deflection. People in my community can speak to the impact of the industrial carbon tax because, unlike the Prime Minister, they do go to the grocery store. And it's not just my local food bank, Mr. Speaker. The Saanich Food Bank, in that member's riding, says they've also been seeing more young families, seniors, and newcomers. Family Services of Greater Vancouver is also seeing more full-time workers. Right now, everyone is in need. So I ask again, will the Prime Minister commit to eliminate the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, you know what Canadians and Vancouver Islanders need to ensure an affordable life? They need money in their jeans. They need things like the old age security. They need things like the guaranteed income supplement. They need things like the child tax benefit. These things put money in folks' jeans. These are initiatives that the Conservatives voted against time and time again.
Very good.
Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, Family Services of Greater Vancouver reports record demand for Christmas food hampers and food banks in general. They outline that working full-time families, even those in higher income tax brackets, can't afford the basics. For 9 straight months, grocery prices across Canada have risen faster than inflation. Yet this government keeps piling on costs, driving food prices even higher while Canadians struggle to meet their basic needs. Why is the Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax on things like cold storage and fertilizer, making food even more expensive for struggling Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes. In fact, the food professor himself said one of the hardest things to predict is the effect of climate change on the cost of food. They don't use that quote when they're, misleading Canadians with inaccurate information. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we know what helps families. It's actually money in your pocket. So when the Canada Child Benefit is indexed to inflation, when the OES and GIS are there for seniors, when we have dental care and pharmacare and affordable early learning and child care, Mr. Speaker, these things are reducing the cost for families and putting money in the pockets of Canadians. That's how you help.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, we committed to build Canada strong, to make Canada an energy superpower, grow the strongest economy in the G7, and strengthen industrial carbon pricing. Last week's Memorandum of Understanding between Canada and Alberta provides a framework to advance those goals. Can the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources explain how Alberta and Canada will work together with Indigenous rights holders in British Columbia to get projects built, create good jobs, and diversify our exports beyond the United States?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, last week I invited the Conservatives to come to Calgary. You know what they would have seen, Mr. Speaker? Not one, but two standing ovations from a sold-out crowd in Calgary. Why? Because this MOU is about getting results for Canadians. That means more certainty for investment, unprecedented collaboration with Alberta, and a clear path to move energy infrastructure projects forward. This will get done while increasing durability of industrial carbon pricing and requiring consultation with British Columbia and respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples. Mr. Speaker, that's how we build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Leave it in the ground. Liberals outed themselves, admitting their fake announcement last week isn't a pipeline approval. The eco-radical Liberal member from Victoria admitted there's no route, there's no project, there's no proponent, which means no pipeline. Who needs pipeline opponents when you have Liberal caucus members like that? The Prime Minister is fueling confusion to divide Canadians, all while talking out of both sides of his mouth. To the Prime Minister, when will shovels be in the ground? Just a year.
Yeah!
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I guess the member opposite didn't listen to his premier because his premier said it was a great day for Alberta. If the Conservatives are serious about getting things built, they should clarify whether they support this Made in Canada agreement or whether they will keep opposing cooperation, undermining investment, scrapping policies that will help Canada compete in a lower carbon world.
Member for Calgary East.
The difference is Conservatives will build pipelines while the Liberals build pipe dreams. That answer is as fake as when the Prime Minister says he's working on the best interests of Canadians and not Brookfield. Entropy is a carbon capture company getting massive Canadian handouts. Their biggest investor is Brookfield. This Prime Minister is more worried about making big bucks for his Brookfield buddies and building pipe dreams. Starving Canadians want to know, how much are the Prime Minister and his Brookfield buddies getting bankrolled by Canadians instead of getting a pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, here they go again with conspiracy theories. Perhaps they could get on board with getting things built, with stop undermining investment certainty, and stop trying to scrap policies that will get us to be an energy superpower in a low-carbon world.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
Last week, the Liberal Minister for Natural Resources blatantly disrespected Indigenous groups by rudely offering pipeline consultations over Zoom. Not only is this insulting, but consultations with Indigenous groups should have started 8 months ago in person when the Liberals promised to move at a scale and speed not seen in generations. Canadians support pipelines. Many Indigenous groups do as well. So my question is, was last week's announcement just another Liberal photo op underpinned by reconciliatory rhetoric?
Yeah! The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, I addressed those comments last week. I apologize for those comments. This MOU lays out clearly how we will work with Indigenous peoples to get things built in Canada.
Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
LNG Canada and Chevron's KLMLG project got efficient approvals mainly due to pre-consultations, which this Liberal government hasn't done. Instead, this Liberal government proposed to do consultations over Zoom, over video calls, to deal with constitutionally protected rights and title. Now the Liberals say it's up to Alberta to get consent, which is wrong. This is Canada's responsibility.
Hear, hear.
When will the Liberals deal with constitutionally protected rights and title longer because it's too late to deal with pre-consultations?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All major projects require the duty to consult and, if appropriate, accommodation. The projects, as they move forward, require that consultation, and that is what we will do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Canada used to be a country that built things, that got things done, that built the Canadian Pacific Railway through the Rockies and across the Canadian Shield. Today, we are governed by Liberals that spend more time building fake backdrops for press conferences than on nation-building projects to secure our sovereignty from the United States. A new pipeline to the Pacific was already approved 11 years ago, and the Liberals killed it. McDonald didn't promise one day to maybe review a proposal and hope a railway got built. He promised a route to the Pacific, and he delivered. Will this government do the same, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, this summer we signed a historic agreement to forge a new, ambitious and comprehensive partnership with European countries. Today, the Prime Minister announced the conclusion of negotiations for Canada's participation in SAFE. This will unlock billions and billions of dollars in defence opportunities for our Canadian businesses. It'll give our defence industry expanded access to the European market, new reliable supplies for the Canadian Armed Forces, catalyze massive private investment in Canada. Mr. Speaker, we can compete and we can win. We're the only non-European country able to participate. We're building Canada strong.
Honourable member for Bull River.
Mr. Speaker, last week Liberal members scrambled to explain that their so-called MOU with Alberta was not the approval of a pipeline, but is just more consultations. And the BC Liberal caucus rushed to distance themselves from this entirely. The same agreement includes a massive increase in the industrial carbon tax, a hike that will raise the cost of everything for families and businesses already struggling under this government. At committee today, the minister admitted that Alberta's exemption for the clean electricity regulations will take place way down the road. So, Mr. Speaker, when these Liberals say that they can move at a scale and speed not seen in generations, do they mean building projects or just raising taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's in a trade war, and it's about time we all recognize that. Our agreement with Alberta is a wartime-like Team Canada plan to strengthen our hand and put Canada in a winning position.
Anyway, I'd like to continue with the answer, but we need a little more silence. I think we're good now. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
I will continue. This MOU is about growing exports beyond a single customer while driving down emissions with strong industrial carbon pricing and a commitment to decarbonization projects. Our goal is to create investment certainty, reduce regulatory overlap, and ensure meaningful consultation with provinces and Indigenous communities.
Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, termination letters are starting to roll out for CAMI workers out in Ingersoll just weeks before Christmas. One of the workers said it's a punch right to the gut. But on October 23rd, the Minister of Industry said, and I quote, "I expect a full update within 15 days from GM." Well, her self-imposed deadline has come and gone. There is no plan. There is no action. There is no update. Our workers can't keep feeding themselves off of empty Liberal promises. So after breaking her own promises, why should our auto workers believe a word she says?
Yeah! Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ. You know why? Because the workers don't agree with my colleague's statement. The unionized workers are completely behind the government's plan to push back against any form of movement at Ingersoll, because we believe that GM can act along with the government and along with Unifor to bring back a new model. Meanwhile, I've had several meetings. I even went to Ingersoll. I met with Unifor, and Mr. Speaker will continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas.
When GM shut down the CAMI plant and laid off 1,200 workers, the industry minister claimed she was on it. She said she was demanding a full update from GM within 15 days and that she would offer transparency to Canadians. That was 39 days ago. No clarity, no plan, no relief for auto workers in Elgin, St. Thomas, and London, who this Liberal government told they would have their backs. When the Prime Minister was asked about standing up for Canadian jobs, he said, "Who cares?" My question is to the Industry Minister. Does she?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, we are all very much aware that the auto workers are affected by the unjustifiable and unjustified American tariffs. And that is why we've been supporting all of them, working with Unifor, working with Lana Pine, who's on speed dial, and to whom which I speak pretty much every day. That being said, we'll continue to fight against Stellantis to make sure that they bring back their operation at Brampton. We'll make sure that we work with GM at the CAMI plant in Ingersoll, because we think that there's a path towards a good news story.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Apparently nobody in
can this government bother to read the Stellantis contract before to see if Canadian jobs would be protected before giving Stellantis billions of dollars in taxpayers' money? The Minister of Industry did not read it. The Deputy Minister for Industry and the past Deputy Minister of Industry did not read it. Finance Canada lawyers did not read it. They all pointed their fingers at the former Industry Minister, who is, of course, the Finance Minister now. So before giving billions in taxpayers' dollars for a project whose jobs are now fleeing to the U.S., did the Finance Minister read the contracts?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, not only did the entire team read it, but you know what we read? We read what the Harper government did in 2009 when they bailed out GM and Chrysler at the time. And you know what we saw? We saw that there was no job protection in that deal. And so you know what we'll do now? We'll make sure that we fight for these jobs. We will make sure that we'll put maximum pressure, and they should stop just whining. They should just get on board and make sure we put
L'honorable député de Vaudreuil.
Mr. Speaker, we know that artificial intelligence may be central to the economy of the future. Everything from healthcare to transportation has the potential to be revolutionized by AI. Canadians want to be confident that Canada is staying at the cutting edge of AI innovations. Can a Minister of Artificial Intelligence tell the House how our government is supporting Canada's AI ecosystem and ensuring that Canadian researchers and companies continue to lead globally?
Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
I want to thank my colleague for the good question, for his leadership in his community of Vaudreuil. Canadian pioneers like Geoffrey Hinton and Joshua Bengio helped invent modern AI right here in Canada. And our three world-leading institutes, Mila in Montreal, Amy in Edmonton, and Vector in Toronto, are success stories. Mr. Speaker, we just invested more, $42.5 million in new compute for researchers all over the country. As the head of our digital research said, we're ensuring innovators have the tools they can to compete globally while keeping our data sovereign. We're building here in Canada.
Member for Newmarket Aurora.
A resident pleaded with me. My family and I are struggling with the rent costs and the price of food. And they're not alone. A CTV News article tells us that 35,000 families are fleeing the GTA because staying in the GTA means living on edge financially with very little room to grow. Families are being uprooted. Generations torn apart. Canadians are forced to leave the very communities that they grew up in. Increasing the industrial carbon tax increases the cost of cement, steel, and all the materials that go into building homes. Why is this Liberal government increasing the industrial carbon tax and making housing even more expensive?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the good news is that the price of housing is actually coming down. We're seeing from the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report in October, average rents are down across Canada, average price of housing is down, mortgage rates are down, housing starts are up. Mr. Speaker, this side of the House is doing something about housing affordability. That side of the House is voting against it.
Member for Newmarket Aurora.
All we hear from these Liberals are empty promises. For the last decade, they've been promising the same things. They know these ideas don't work, and the record speaks the truth. In the GTA, housing starts have plunged 34%, not increase. In just 9 months, condo starts are down 51%. And the slowdown in the construction industry means 35,000 lost years of employment for Canadians. Instead of building homes, the Liberals are piling on more bureaucracy and increasing the industrial carbon tax. Why can they stop raising punishing taxes, driving away our jobs and investment while Canadians cannot afford a home or food?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this side of the House has proposed a budget that has unprecedented investment in affordable housing. The Conservative side of the House has an opportunity to support $13 billion investment in affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have dragged the first-time homebuyers tax break on GST since June. That was an opportunity to save first-time homebuyers money. Mr. Speaker, we're giving them opportunities to support our investment in affordability and affordable housing across Canada. Thank you.
For York Centre.
Over
35,000 families fled the GTA last year because they can't afford a home. CTV followed a Toronto woman who couldn't buy a house with a $200,000 income. The Liberals pretend that the impact of the industrial carbon tax on new house is imaginary, but clearly industrial carbon tax increases the cost of cement, the cost of steel, and the cost of all materials that go into new homes. Last month, only 25 new condos were sold in Toronto, in a city of 3 million. When families are fleeing the GTA, why do the Liberals make housing even more expensive by increasing the industrial carbon tax? Why?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Speaker, I want to recognize the Northern Ontario mayors who are here this week talking about their incredible work to attract people to Northern Ontario. These mayors are actually investing in the very things that create affordable housing, using the housing accelerator, working with infrastructure, working with the province of Ontario, making sure that as critical mineral projects boom in our region, we have the housing to accommodate those workers. Mr. Speaker, good things are coming for Northern Ontario.
L'honorable député de Compton-Stanstead.
Mr. Speaker, last week, despite obstruction and stalling from the Conservative, we successfully referred Bill C-12 back to the House. This legislation is critical to securing our borders, strengthening our immigration system, and keeping Canadians safe. Can the Minister of Public Safety tell Canadians why this legislation is essential to ensuring their safety and protection?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Compton-Stanstead for her incredible work in the SECU Committee, and I want to thank the members of the SECU Committee for making sure that Bill C-12 passes report stage at committee. Bill C-12 will give law enforcement the tools to keep our borders secure, combat organized crimes, auto theft, extortion, money laundering, and the trafficking of illegal weapons and drugs, Mr. Speaker. The bill will enhance the integrity of our immigration system by creating robust screening standards as well as ensuring fair and transparent enforcement. Keeping Canada strong means keeping Canadians secure, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Côte.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamekw-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, December is slated to be the most difficult month in decades. In my riding, the director of the Moisson Kamouraska Food Bank has told me that demand is skyrocketing. In Quebec, there were 3.1 million food bank visits in 2025, 37% more than in 2022. The demand for Christmas hampers will be unprecedented. With the price of food going up, eating is now practically a luxury. And yet the Liberals are still hanging on to their fuel tax, which is making food prices go even higher. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister refusing to help families in my riding who are struggling to put food on the table? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague. As he knows, and as we all know, regular people in Quebec want to have a good job. Currently, a great many tariffs are being brought in by the American administration. During this difficult time, we will be there to protect our businesses that give people good jobs in Quebec. I will continue to work with him over this holiday period so that people can get good jobs and to help us have a strong safety net in Quebec and throughout Canada. We believe in that.
Neil Bernie.
Mr. Speaker, in 2021, the Zim Kingston lost over 100 shipping containers. In 2016, the Hanjin Seattle spilled dozens, and now a barge off Bella Bella has nearly gone down with a full load. Each time, First Nations and local communities are left to respond and face lasting impacts. The Transportation Safety Board says Canada still has no system for cargo unit or marine debris spills. When will this government act on these recommendations and create a coordinated response system that includes coastal communities backed by an ecosystem service fee on cargo units so industry can help protect our coasts?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I want to thank my honourable colleague for that question. It's an important issue indeed, and we want to make sure that marine safety, indeed the safety of all vessels, their seaworthiness, the safety and security of those who are aboard them, and indeed the environment for those who must deal with those transgressors must all be dealt with. I'm very glad to have the honourable members' cooperation and interest in this file, and I can assure them that we'll continue to be working on it as we work on the security of our supply chains and the sustainability of our marine transportation.
Well, thank you, colleagues. That puts an end to question period. Je désire informer la Chambre.
I would like to inform the House that the volume of earpieces will now be reset.
We'll take a minute to allow colleagues to leave the chamber.
Alors, nous allons poursuivre.
We will now continue with our deliberations today. We'll start with daily routine of business. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills. First reading of Senate public bills. Motions. Presenting petitions.